I'm going to wrap up the section with how to write a conclusion to a hypothesis test. So this caution box, I emphasized it earlier, but I'm going to emphasize it again. Never, ever, ever say we accept the statement in the null hypothesis. The reason you cannot accept the statement in the null hypothesis is because you're using sample evidence to make a judgment about the value of a parameter. Sample evidence cannot be used to make a judgment about the value of a parameter. We know that because statistics, sample statistics vary from sample to sample. So we don't know that our particular statistic is equal to the value of the parameter, slightly different from the value of the parameter, or way off from the value of the parameter. Okay, so this is just like your court system. Never declare a victim, we never declare a defendant innocent. We simply say the defendant is not guilty. So when we write our conclusions are going to be in that mindset as well. So we're again dealing with our time worked example. Remember, our null is that the mean equals 5.46 hours, and the alternative is that the mean is bigger than 5.46 hours. And by the way, always use units of measurement in your null and alternative hypotheses. Don't write mean equals 5.46 because I won't know what unit of measure we're talking about. Minutes, hours. So let's say the sample data is leading us to reject the statement in the null hypothesis. What is our conclusion going to be? We're going to say something along these lines. And there's a little bit of flexibility here, but the general gist of it is as follows. The sample data led us to reject the statement in the null hypothesis. Okay, great. So here's what we conclude. There is sufficient evidence to conclude the mean amount of time males employed part-time work on the weekends is greater than 5.46 hours. Okay, so the second sentence is really the sentence that is the conclusion. There is sufficient evidence to conclude. That's first. And then the second part is the mean amount of time males employed part-time on the work on the weekends. That's like who you're studying. And then you state what your alternative hypothesis is greater than 5.46 hours. So here's the generic conclusion. There is sufficient evidence to conclude, and then in this blank is insert group being studied. In this case, employed males working on the weekend. Is, and then blank, state whatever the alternative hypothesis is. So these conclusions are always fill in the blank scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Letter B says, suppose the statement in the null hypothesis is not rejected. Now what's the conclusion? Here's how awesome this is. So I'm just going to copy this. The sample evidence led us to not reject the statement in the null hypothesis. And all you have to do is now say there is not sufficient evidence to conclude the mean amount of time males employed part-time work on the weekends is greater than 5.6 hours, 5.46 hours. We're not saying the statement in the null is true. We're just saying I don't have enough evidence to conclude the alternative may be true. So the only difference between rejecting and not rejecting is this word not as part of your conclusion. And so here's the fill in the blank for not rejecting. There is not sufficient evidence.